Hello and welcome to Smaulgld. In case you missed the top gold, silver, and crypto stories for the week ended February 18th, 2018, Arizona, Colorado, and Wyoming moved to make Bitcoin a tax payment method. Gold and silver rebounded during the week. Cryptos, led by Litecoin, roared back. The stock market stabilized. And special counsel Robert Mueller indicted Russian internet trolls. Memogate heats up. The battery dollar. ECB's Draghi says it's not his job to regulate cryptos. BOJ's Kuroda says cryptos won't threaten the yen. Gold production rises for the 9th straight year. And an interesting gold smuggling story. The largest ever gold airline smuggling bust. Some interesting twists there. I'll be talking about those during the podcast. But first, let's take a look at gold and silver. Gold and silver made some nice rebounding during the week, and both of them closed higher. Gold closed at 1346 and silver at 1664. The gold-silver ratio, however, still remains elevated at 81.02 to 1. Let's move on. Now, we covered in separate podcasts, YouTube's, BitChutes, and Smaulgld blog posts the Mueller indictment of the Russian trolls. We're not going to cover that here. You can check those out. Also, we did a full, I'd say 20 minutes of Moronica that normally was part of this In Case You Missed It program, but now it is its own separate program. It's already been recorded. You can please check that out. You can check that out before going further on this if you'd like. Now, Memogate. Not as much news on Memogate, so we're going to cover it in this podcast. Last week, we did a full half an hour on it, but this week less was happening. More focus was on the Mueller indictments of the internet trolls. However, we are seeing now some more momentum heading in the direction of the Russian collusion story collapsing. Now, the Democrats had put out a memo that was rejected by the White House as having sensitive information. It was interesting because that had been anticipated. And the latest is that the Democrats are not going to change the memo. So basically, they got whatever mileage they were going to get out of saying they had a memo and that Trump wouldn't allow it to get out there, but they weren't able to get their story out there because the memo has not been released. Now, there's some other interesting news. I just want to put that out there as a marker. It came up during the week that there is a guy named not Priebus. I think yes, it's Priebus. He was the guy, he was the number one guy, and Strzok reported to him. And Comey blamed this particular individual, very high up in the FBI, for not telling the Congress Gang of Eight that there was a counterintelligence operation going on involving the Trump campaign. Now, that's something that the FBI is supposed to do. When he was asked in a congressional hearing, he did not, he was asked why did he not divulge that there was this counterintelligence operation going on, and he blamed Priebus. He basically said that, well, we thought it wouldn't be a good idea to do it. Now, the reason this Priebus guy is important is you never hear his name. You always hear about Sally Yates and Orr and Strzok and Page and McCabe, but you never hear about Priebus. And the reason that's important is many are speculating now that Priebus is cooperating with the Congress and also with the Inspector General and people that are looking into any malfeasance as to how the Trump dossier, FISA warrant was approved, looking into also how the Hillary Clinton email campaign was conducted. So this guy appears to be, and the reason wasn't just brought up. There was a guy, I can't remember his name. He was one of the members of Congress, and he was asked on television because Judge Jeanine had caught wind that this Priebus guy may have flipped. And the congressman basically admitted that, yes, this is the guy right here. Chris Stewart, in his interview. When you look at, I'll leave the link here. When you listen to the interview, he basically says, I don't want to give away anything here, which is basically saying, yeah, that's what's happening, that this guy is giving us information. It appears that the Republican investigation holds all the cards and that the Democrats don't, and probably because from everything we've seen, it looks like the Democrats tried to and did undermine the Trump campaign and try to delegitimize his win by claiming that everything was due to his collusion with the Russians. Now what they're trying to say is, well, if he can't prove collusion, hey, Donald Trump, you've told us this whole thing was a hoax for a year. Now we're showing you this is a real threat. We've got real live Russians out there trolling on the internet. What are you going to do about it? And he's basically saying, I never said it was a hoax. I never said that there weren't trolls out there, Russian or otherwise. But I said there was a hoax, that somehow the Trump campaign was involved. Okay, so we're going to follow this story up. It looks like this is going to come to a head soon. We're going to have the Inspector General's report coming out over the next 3 to 6 weeks, and we'll probably see more and more and hear more about this previous character to see if he really is cooperating and giving up information. One of the other reasons they mentioned why this guy might cooperate, not only was he thrown under the bus by Comey and saying, oh, we didn't tell Congress because Priebus told us not to tell you, which is nonsense because Priebus reports to Comey and he didn't mention his name, but that Priebus, he apparently is wealthy through his wife and he doesn't need the to go get taken down to cover for Comey, who's out now with $1 million book deals. He's got a teaching gig, teaching, get this, ethics in some place in Virginia. So I don't think Priebus probably appreciates this kind of being blamed for not telling Congress. Now, other interesting news is Brennan, the former chairman of the CIA, he's also under investigation for his role in promoting Hillary's phony dossier. He's also complaining that Trump is doing nothing about preventing all this proven Russian trolling. All right, let's move on from that and let's get into the dollar collapse. We always talk about the dollar collapse, or people talk about it. I actually say it's not true. Let's talk about the petrodollar. Everyone says, the end of the petrodollar. It's become such a meme that people think they know something because they say, oh, the petrodollar is going away. They may have heard somebody on the internet say the petrodollar is going away. It's going to be replaced by the petro yuan. Let me give you some historical context. And I know you know this if you know about the petrodollar, but maybe you missed this one significant point. The petrodollar in the arrangements came after the United States broke the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1971, whereby foreign central banks were entitled to bring their dollars to the U.S. Treasury and get gold in return, and that was happening at an increasing pace, and finally Nixon said, the hell with this, we'll be out of gold soon, so from now on, you got dollars, you got dollars. You're not getting any gold from us, and that was the end of the story. Well, there was a bit of a revolt, and the foreign central banks thought, well, what good is the dollar? Might as well use something else, or just use whatever we got. You know, we got lira, we got euro, not euro, we have pounds, we got francs, we got marks, Deutsche marks. Well, and the United States, and they did nothing to get rid of the Bretton Woods agreements. They just struck that clause that said central banks around the world could bring their dollars to the Treasury and get gold. What Nixon and Kissinger did was they arranged for Saudi Arabia and the OPEC countries to price the oil in dollars and only accept dollars, and in return the United States would provide defense. Good deal. And what that did was it created an underpinning now for the dollar that wasn't gold, that was oil, that countries would have to have dollars in order to buy gold, to buy oil, and that kept, this is the important point, that kept the dollar as the world's reserve currency. It didn't create additional demand. Now everybody had to go out and get dollars to buy oil. They had to hold the dollars they already had because they couldn't turn them in for gold. So they'd keep them, and they would use them also to buy oil. Okay. that happened in 1973, 74. Since then, a lot has changed. Lots have changed within the oil markets, and lots have changed within how countries view the dollar. Whether they like it or not, the dollar has become even more widely used throughout the world in international commerce since 1974, 73, 74, 75. Oil is only 10, 12, 15% of international trade, so it's not like countries are holding dollars only in amounts that they need to cover their oil bills. No, they hold dollars because everyone else holds dollars, and dollars are the most liquid currency and treasury note on the market, and nothing has changed. That is why people hold U.S. dollars. The second is the euro bonds, or euro, about 20%. After that, you got people holding pounds, yen, Swiss francs, Canadian dollars, and very, very small amount in yuan. Now, people are saying, oh, but you know, the Saudi, they're going to introduce the petro yuan. And remember, there's nothing about gold backing. That's stupidity, saying they're going to be able to take the yuan and go to the Shanghai Gold Exchange and get gold. That's not true. That was never true. What is true is they're going to have a gold, a yuan-denominated oils futures contract, and that is going to try to gin up some interest in countries hedging and holding yuan in their oil trade. Okay, but that isn't going to, that's not the same thing as when the petrodollar was created, because the dollar already was the world reserve currency. People are already holding it. So it's not going to create some type of instant demand or instant use case for the yuan. You could speculate that it might, but most likely what's going to happen is that people or countries that are trading for their oil in dollars will continue to do so. Sure, they'll be in China. The Chinese will probably use the contract, but I'm not seeing how this is going to be any big game changer. And by the way, there certainly is no gold component to it. The idea that somehow now there was a gold-backed yuan is nonsense. So then the story switched to, well, these countries who are going to engage in this contract with yuan, well, it won't be convertible on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. They're going to take the yuan and go and buy gold with it. And the idea there is because they don't want to hold the yuan. Well, that undercuts the idea that the yuan is worth anything if they don't want to hold it, and they're going to immediately go buy gold with it. But the problem with that is, why bother with all that? You might as well just buy dollars. And that's right now, the oil-producing nations aren't stockpiling gold. They're stockpiling dollars. One other thing about the oil market. Saudi Arabia is no longer the big cheese in the oil market. The United States is now a bigger oil producer than Saudi Arabia. Russia is the world's largest oil producer. China is now a big player in that they want to buy oil, but the United States is a large exporter of oil to China, as well as natural gas. So the idea of the petrodollar by its nature isn't as important today as it was 40 years ago. Saudi Arabia and the underpinning of the petrodollar is not as important, given that Saudi Arabia is no longer the largest oil producer in the world, and soon the United States will challenge Saudi Arabia even in exports. So the US dollar can be backed by its own oil, and also the dollar has value or desirability or demand aside from just the oil backing. Now there's one other twinge to this, and enter the battery dollar. This was an interesting story. Oil output cuts and electric car influx could hit Russian economy. Now, I think it's a little far-fetched here, but it makes the point that if oil is less desired for cars, well, then lithium becomes more important. And lithium is not produced in Saudi Arabia. Lithium is not produced in Russia. Guess where lithium is produced? United States, Chile, Argentina, Australia, and China. So the idea that the petrodollar is going away, yeah, it probably will. If it's the petrodollar based on Saudi Arabia and OPEC, but it's not as important as it once was because the United States is an oil producer now. There's going to be alternative energies that are going to become, maybe they won't challenge oil, but they'll chip away at the percentage of energy or percentage of uses for energy. In other words, if 100% of cars 20 years ago used gasoline, maybe 60% 10 years from now will use gasoline. The rest will use fuel cells or alternative things like batteries. All right, so here's a link here if you want to read about lithium. They're found in South America, U.S., Australia, and China. And I mentioned here the petrodollar ranges didn't create demand for the dollar. They maintained it. So when China introduces the petro yuan, it's not going to create instant demand for the yuan. It's part of their long-term internationalization of the yuan, but they've got a lot of problems in going there because they have capital controls. They've got a lot of internal debt, and the yuan and the international markets don't trust the transparency of Chinese reporting. All right, getting into cryptocurrencies, a little bit going on during the week. There was a lawsuit against CoinCheck. They had lost $530 million in Japan worth of cryptocurrencies. There's a tiny Canadian bank unveils digital vault. The reason I highlight this is there's people out there saying that the banks are going to shut it down. They're going to arrest everyone. That's just nonsense. They didn't need to invent cryptocurrency so they can arrest everybody. The banks love this stuff. If they can corral it, they can get into the payment system. It creates more fees. It creates trading fees. It creates tax revenues. As long as they can keep the cryptocurrencies on regulated exchange, which that means trading fees, that means transparency, that means tax forms go out at the end of the year, and they can integrate it into the payment system, as we're going to see. Lite is integrated with Visa. They love this stuff. There's no reason to be arresting everybody and declaring cryptocurrencies money laundering instruments, and then everybody somehow is just going to flock to silver coins stamped with special designs on them. All right, let's move on to the stock market. It's hard to say what happened. We had a big collapse, and then things came back, and maybe that's a warning shot. Maybe it isn't. Maybe we'll just see the stock market stabilize. I was thinking that the stock market would stabilize, and we'd start to see upticks in the economy, and then maybe a flatlining stock market. You see, the problem with a crash in the stock market or any of the markets is it seems that the central banks now have a firm grip on the markets in that they can always flood the markets with liquidity if they don't want them to fall. They can always smash gold and silver prices with naked shorts. It just seems they have too much of a control over the markets because they're not markets. They run the casino, so you're not going to win on their casino. So maybe we won't have the same stock gains. I don't know. In a normal market, there's no way we would have seen the stock gains the last 10 years, last 7, 8 years on the stagnant economy that we had. But yet we had, and no way you would have companies that don't make profits, haven't made profits, and don't look like they ever make profits being worth billions of dollars. That's just where we are. Now, one of the things I mentioned, people are saying Trump was stupid to claim the economy because now he's going to own it when it goes down. And I don't think so. I think what he does is he claims it on the way up. And if it goes down, he'll just disown it. I say here, I think you take credit for the rocket boost and then leave it behind when you burst into orbit. If the economy is doing well and the stock market isn't, he'll just switch his tune from look how great the economy is doing. All these people have jobs, manufacturing is coming back, so on. Now, Litecoin was interesting this week. It went up a lot. Some people say it's because of some hard fork coming up at Litecoin Cash. I'm not sure that's the case. Most people, Charlie Lee, the founder of Litecoin, called it a scam. There wasn't really a demand or a use case for Litecoin Cash like there arguably was for Bcash. So the real reason they think the Litecoin is going up, there were a lot of high-profile stories about Lite being a game changer. That was in NASDAQ. There was a story in Express in the UK, Express UK, on Lite. Microsoft talked about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin as platforms suitable for their platforms. There was also, more on Lite. Look at Litecoin just went up like 50, 60% during the week. It was in the 140s, and it ended up around 237. Basically went up about $100 during the week. Even CBS Fast Money took a note of that. BitPay doesn't accept Litecoin, but now LitePay does. The other thing about during the week was your MarketWatch covered Litecoin in the context of LitePay, and Coinbase announced Coinbase Commerce. Now, you used to be able to accept through Coinbase just Bitcoin. Now they've opened it up to Litecoin, Ethereum, and even Bcash. So I've taken a look at it. It's basically you can just add in the other coins and you can sell your merchandise via those other coins, and Coinbase will process them for you. And it's called Coinbase Commerce. There you go here. And then over here you got Forbes, CNBC, all talking about Litecoin. This one's actually, could Litecoin reach the same high as Bitcoin? That's in Express UK, why Litecoin is soaring. That was in Yahoo Finance. Look at that, up $61. That's up $232. Who wrote this one here? That was in CNBC Fast Money. So this is like the .com days. Your CEO, your company gets mentioned on CNBC, and it doesn't matter what he's talking about, the price goes up. So all these things trade on sentiment. LitePay payment processor. This is Investopedia. So Litecoin had a big move up, and they also had been smashed down the last couple of weeks, all the cryptocurrency. So they came back. This is surging. Litecoin is leading crypto price recovery. That's from CoinDesk. So plenty of news on Litecoin for PayPal for crypto. That was in Fortune, talking about paying with Bitcoin and Litecoin. Bitcoin had a good week too. Now, Arizona might allow people to pay taxes via Bitcoin. This is significant because this has been an argument that Peter Schiff makes all the time as well. You can't pay your taxes in Bitcoin, and therefore it's not illegitimate. He doesn't say it's illegitimate. He just thinks it's overpriced. But the point is, it looks like there's a number of states that are looking to allow you to pay your taxes with Bitcoin. And again, this goes to the fact that this idea that the United States is going to arrest everybody, they want to ban it. No, they don't. If you listen to the SEC testimony, you listen to the CFT testimony to the Senate, the CFTC guy says my niece is a hodler, and we have to respect this. And the SEC is just trying to, and dizzy Miss Lizzie Warren is saying we just want to make ICOs safe. They know ICOs are big money, and they also know that their buddies haven't been making it. Investment banks are not sponsoring ICOs. They're not getting that, they're still messing around with IPOs. They're not making that revenue from the ICOs. The SEC are not getting the registration fees. They just want to regulate. Now, this guy, Venezuelan, headed for the Netherlands and arrested with 46 gold bars. He got caught. Now, if he had left Venezuela with Bitcoin and then bought his gold when he got to the Netherlands, he'd been better off. It's another story, Arizona. This was in Breitbart. Senate passes bill to allow citizens to pay taxes in Bitcoin. Look at this. During the week, Bitcoin inches closer to 9,000. That was a big deal because it was like 7,000 earlier in the week. Well, right now it's like 11,500 or something. So Bitcoin has risen about 40-50%. But you've got Charlie Munger here. Here's the guy. He said, quote, I don't care if gold goes up. I don't know, he said $500. He says, you're still an asshole if you like it. Now he's saying, that's a quote. He did say that. I didn't make that up. He says, I don't care if it goes up. You're still an asshole. That's his words. Then he also said, Bitcoin is a noxious poison. So get off my lawn. This guy. All right, what else we got in anonymous? See, well, the reason that Bitcoin went up, they say this trader bought $400 million in Bitcoin. Very strange. Now, here's Peter Schiff. He was saying, that Bitcoin, when it was on its way down, it was headed to 1,000. That's 70% below its high. How much lower will it go before hodlers fold? He says, my guess is they'll hang on till the price is well below 1,000, and then there won't be any buyers. Well, soon after he wrote that, the price of Bitcoin, here he was saying that Bitcoin was trying to make a last stand at 5,900, and it was going to be like Custer's last stand, and they were going to get wiped out. And now the price is 11,500. This stuff is volatile. Predicting the price is going to go up, the price is going to go down is a fool's errand. This was a disingenuous story. And I caught this from, I think his name is Beauty on. He was criticizing the Wall Street Journal, rightfully so. I think that, The headline in the Wall Street Journal is Bitcoin's latest glitch, double charges at fast-growing Coinbase. It's not really Bitcoin's glitch. That's just Coinbase's problem. Bitcoin itself, ironically, eliminated the double payment issue. That's the whole supposed big advantage of Bitcoin. Well, not supposed, but is an advantage of Bitcoin. And to label it as a Bitcoin issue is incorrect. Why are we showing a picture of a kid? Well, that's Business Insider's choice. Why this New York City preschool accepts Bitcoin but doesn't accept credit cards? Well, you know, when you pay your tuition for these private schools, it's like 15, 20 large. And for the school, if they accept a credit card, which apparently they don't, you got to pay fees. Well, the Bitcoin fees are lower. Also, one of the things I guess people don't get is when you pay with a check, you don't know whether the person has the money in the account. Like, I could write a check right now for $100,000. I don't have $100,000. I can still write the check. Nothing stopped me. I could bring it to the merchant or the schools. Hey, here's my $100,000. Sign up my kids for the next 2 years. Then it bounces. But if I had $100,000 in Bitcoin, which I don't, I can't give him, like when I go to pay him, if it's not there, I can't give it to him. So there's certainty of the transaction when you have Bitcoin. And he mentioned the guy that runs the school he runs it through a payment processor. He didn't say which one, but let's say it's Coinbase. You calculate $100,000 at that moment, and it says it's worth 60 Bitcoin or whatever it is, and that's it. Then Coinbase gets the Bitcoin and ships the school the $100,000. No such thing as Bitcoin Core. Yeah, that's interesting, and Charlie is right to point out. Roger Ver is always. At one point, everyone's seen the famous interview where the guy is calling it Bcash just because it was easier for him, and Roger got furious. They're saying it's not Bcash, it's Bitcoin Cash. Well, Roger calls Bitcoin Core. There's no such thing as Bitcoin Core. There's Bitcoin and there's Bitcoin Cash. And the problem people have with Bitcoin Cash is it's designed to confuse people that it's not Bitcoin. It's got the name Bitcoin in, they call it Bitcoin Cash. So a lot of people call it Bcash, and that solves the confusion issue over the two. But of course, Roger says that Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin. Okay, I don't get involved in that. I don't think it really matters to me. All right, here now, Christine Lagarde, she gave testimony about 6-7 months ago saying very favorable to cryptocurrencies, even saying the banks may have to do their own cryptocurrencies. But she's saying regulation is inevitable. However, her colleagues, there's a guy at the BOJ, Kuroda, who's, by the way, been reappointed to another round of another term. He says cryptocurrencies won't threaten the end. They're largely speculative. Yeah, so if they could take that speculation, make money off of it, and then drive the cryptocurrencies into a payment system and get fees, I don't see the problem. Japan has no problem with cryptocurrencies. That's probably why Satoshi Nakamoto is from there. If he is, if it's a person, who knows? But the point is, Japan has fully regulated, fully legal cryptocurrencies. Now, for those of you who get involved in geopolitics and say that the United States, Japan doesn't do anything unless the United States tells them to do, well, the United States didn't tell Japan to ban anything, and the United States doesn't look like it's going to ban anything. It looks like the United States just wants its tax cut, and they want their banker friends, and they want to regulate and protect investors to make money. That's it. I don't think they view this as some kind of big threat. Now, that goes against with the Bitcoin Core, and I say Bitcoin Core, I mean the hardcore original Bitcoin people, they were viewing Bitcoin as being the end of banking, the end of central banking, the government nemesis would take the governments down. As I see it, that's not happening. I see as the government is co-opting, the banks are co-opting the cryptocurrencies. They like this as long as they can control it. And they seem to be doing it because other than the hardcore libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, the average person just wants to make a buck. They don't care. And if they have to trade on some clunky thing like Coinbase and pay their tax at the end of the year, they don't care. They don't even care if it's a block or a hash. They don't know anything. They don't care. Right now, they're buying companies that don't make any money. So what difference does it make if they buy Zillow or if they buy Litecoin? It doesn't matter to them. They're just looking to buy what goes up. Few Americans are reporting cryptocurrency trading for IRS for now. Now, remember, in 2017, the law was you could do a Litecoin exchange. So if you bought Bitcoin and traded it for Litecoin, you didn't pay there was a like exchange, so you didn't pay tax on your gain on the sale of the Bitcoin. In 2018, you're supposed to. The new tax law covers that. So if you sell your Bitcoin and then you buy Ethereum, and then you take the Ethereum and you buy Litecoin, the sale of Bitcoin and Ethereum are taxable or on the gains. And if you lost money, then of course you can write them off. So that's why probably, and if people really are hodlers, you don't pay tax until you sell. So that's probably another reason. And also, they don't make it easy. I mean, I think if Coinbase, instead of just identifying to the IRS the top 1% of their customers, if they just sent that as a matter of course, just like a stock brokerage is, here's what you bought during the year, and then here's what you sold, and then report that to the IRS, I think that's eventually where they're going to go. I would guess by this time next year, they'll have that in place. And there will be people say, oh, but people will go off decentralized exchanges. Yeah, some will. But for the most part, most people won't bother. And of course, the people that want privacy or want to commit crimes, they'll do that. And it's just like people who want to use cash or anything else and they want to be anonymous, they'll find ways around it. But as long as the government, I think, is satisfied with 70, 80, 90, 95% compliance, it's money for them, and then they can spend some of their time going after people who are avoiding taxes. So I think my belief is there, 90% of crypto trading will happen on fully regulated tax-compliant exchanges, and governments and banks will love it and encourage it for the trading fees and tax revenues. This is Mario Draghi. He said it's not his job to regulate Bitcoin. Nope. Okay. So they're not banks. Either they're bluffing and they're pretending they don't care, or they're looking on with bemusement that this is, something that's making money. It's in Japan, it's probably improving the economy, the Bitcoin economy that's going on there. And here's South Korea. Remember the big, they're going to ban it. No, South Korea positively considering cryptocurrency exchange licenses. They're not stupid. South Korea knows they can make some serious, I think it's won. WON, I think is what their currency is called. But again, they're just like the U.S. They'll take firm action against illegal, unfair cryptocurrency trading. It's a whole baby with the bathwater mentality. You don't just get rid of something because there's some bad stuff associated with it. As long as there's some good stuff associated with it, wheat from the chaff. You try to keep the good stuff, and then you try to eliminate the bad stuff. But ranting and raving that they're going to arrest everybody, why? Why would they want to do that? Yeah, sure, if you believe the government, all they want to do is arrest people, well, then they don't need cryptocurrencies if all they want to do is go around and arrest people. They didn't have to invent cryptocurrencies to come up with a reason to arrest you. They could just come to your house and say, you're arrested. It just doesn't make any sense, that mentality. CFTC commissioner urges crypto companies to self-regulate. See, here, they're not saying we're going to come after you and we're going to arrest you and we're going to take your children away from you and we're going to put you in FEMA camps and we're going to enslave you. No, you see, I go for the argument. If somebody wants to make the argument that they invented cryptocurrencies to usher in a cashless society, I don't necessarily believe this, but I could believe this. This makes sense. That they want the cashless society, so they get people in cryptos. They encourage people to use cryptos. They encourage them because they make money off of it. They encourage them to pay taxes. And now they've basically ushered in a taxable and trackable cashless society. That I can believe. There's nothing wrong with that argument. That's plausible. It is not plausible that they're going to go out and arrest the 25 million Coinbase users and call them all money launderers, and they're going to come and take their houses away from them. No, there's no reason to do that other than to satisfy a silverbug fantasy. There's no reason to arrest everybody. Sure, there's reason to go after tax evaders. There's reason to go after people who commit crimes. But to say holding a Bitcoin is a crime, it doesn't make it. And by the way, the Bitcoin people have so much money now, they can lobby just like everybody else. I'm sure that's what's happening in these states where they're saying, could we pay our taxes in Bitcoin? There's too many people involved, too many legitimate people involved in cryptocurrencies. It's not like anyone who uses crypto, like Jim Rickard says, oh, then your compatriots are pornographers, child molesters, and money launderers. Yeah, and you could say the same thing if you use dollars, and anyone who uses a dollar is the same. That's ridiculous. There are bad people who go to movies, and there's good people who go to movies. There's bad people who use Bitcoin. There's good people who use Bitcoin. It's not like everyone who uses Bitcoin is some type of a criminal or a pervert. I don't know how you can think that way. All right. Let's move on. Here you go. Arizona, Colorado, Wyoming push legislating supporting cryptocurrencies, allowing the use of cryptocurrency as a payment option in a state revenue system. Look, if these people have tax gains in their cryptocurrencies, but they don't have the dollars to pay them and they're allowed to pay them in cryptocurrency, it's a win-win for everybody. It encourages them to pay their taxes. It encourages people who don't have the dollars. It doesn't make any sense for people to think that they're going to go around arresting everybody. They're going to arrest people who do bad things. They're not going to arrest everybody. See, they're not going to label cryptocurrencies themselves as bad things. And by the way, within cryptocurrencies, certain ICOs, they will arrest everybody if the whole thing is a scam and a Ponzi scheme. But there's going to be other ICOs that are perfectly legitimate and ways, the SEC said, innovative ways of raising capital. The United States wants to be a leader in innovative ways in raising capital. They don't want to ban everything. China is the one who wants to ban everything, not the United States, not South Korea, not Japan. All right, I think we got a little more here on Bitcoin. Yeah, well, here, you got the same thing with gold. You can use gold for bad things. Here, German authorities crack down on shady gold tax evasion. Sure, that doesn't mean they should eliminate gold. Right now, central banks, governments, they probably dislike gold more than Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Because gold doesn't require anything. Once you have gold, you don't need a network. They can't do anything to shut it off from you other than to take it away from you physically. Whereas with Bitcoin, they can shut off the exchange. They can shut off your internet access. They can do a lot of stuff. And you need all these things working in unison in order to give your Bitcoin value. Once you have your gold, there's nothing anyone has to do. You have gold. That's why gold is the most, I think, the best store of value. Look at it. It just sits there. You don't have to turn it on. You don't need a password. You don't have to go anywhere. It just sits there. It is. That gold is yours. Oh, I wish I look at that. And it just is, and it's just worth what it is. That's another story there. Something on India. Well, China remains the largest gold buyer, but this is Chinese media, so I don't know. The World Gold Council, they all have these numbers. Yeah, China buys a lot of gold, but then Indians buy a lot of gold, and India imports a lot of gold, and India imports gold that you don't know about through the black market. It's hard to say. Both countries, large populations, large, rich, and middle-class populations. So I would say definitely the two of them, number 1 and 2, but I wouldn't bet. I don't think we know who's number 1 or number 2. 9 straight years of gold production going up. So that belies the whole... Well, first of all, there's 2 things about gold production. Every year, the gold supply of above-ground gold only goes up like 2-3% because of new gold. So even if they stop producing gold, it's not like it's game over and now all of a sudden there's going to be shortages. No. Most of that new gold goes into production of jewelry, which, by the way, is down. But it hasn't been. The last 9 years, you got record gold production. As I say, if it goes down next year, it's not going to mean that the gold price goes higher because there's less gold. It's not a significant component of the supply side, the amount that's produced annually. It only adds a small percentage of gold each year. I'm not going to go through this, but you want to check this out. This is the Thomson Reuters. There's a lot of good information in these reports they do. This is on silver. Very good report. You can see the demand. You can see the supply, at least what they say. It's pretty comprehensive, so it's worth taking a look at. Chemists look to mine silver from laundry wastewater. You know, people are wearing all these clothes that have the antibacterial little tiny bits of silver, and well, that adds up. So it could be in the laundry wastewater. Now, a lot of people are talking about JP Morgan's silver. I had done a report on this, about 18 months ago, saying JP Morgan owns or controls the silver in its COMEX vaults. It controls silver by means of trust funds, investment funds in the form of mining shares and also ETFs. And it also is the custodian for the silver ETF SLV. Now, with all respect to all three, there's no evidence that JP Morgan owns any of that. They have control over it, which is important. But the silver in the COMEX default and the COMEX vaults could mostly be owned by clients. And the ETF, it's certainly not owned by them. But clearly, JP Morgan has control over a lot of the silver. That, to me, is more important. However, a lot of people just automatically assume that means they know what's coming when it goes to $600 an ounce. They're going to be big winners. It could also be that they're under government orders to accumulate that. So if the price starts to get out of hand and they can't throw enough naked shorts at it, they can actually sell silver into the market. So I don't make a big deal out of this because this has been going on for 7 or 8 years, the supposed increase in JP Morgan silver. Then there's also some other stories, which I don't believe at all, that JP Morgan bought silver eagles and Canadian maple leaf, Canadian maples. That I don't believe. It makes no sense for them to buy that kind of silver because they can't get rid of it. What are they gonna do with it? Are they gonna open up yield coin shops around the world and try to sell rolls and monster boxes? So they have enough silver, supposedly. I mean, 133 million ounces in the COMEX vault. There's like 500 million ounces in the SLV, and then they have silver mining shares, and then they actually own shares of SLV through the investment. So I don't know if it means anything. There you go. Idaho votes not to tax income from silver and gold sales. Now, I have had a blog post brewing for almost a year now because I've read through all the states. Now, you have, let's see from memory, you got Idaho, Wyoming, let's see, what's next? Utah, Arizona, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Missouri, Louisiana, then you go Indiana, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina. I think that's it. All those states have either in the process of or have passed laws where there's no tax on the precious metals. So very interesting thing there. You have the state, the states are looking at innovative ways to help their citizens, with the paying their taxes in cryptocurrencies or eliminating the tax on gold and silver. So interesting. No gold pumper, no Bitcoin pumper stories of the week this week. I didn't see any. If you want to send me Bitcoin or gold pumper stories, please send them to me. Also, if you want to send me Veronica, I'm happy to take submissions for those. Here's an interesting one. The Bundesbank Wyoming says digital money is not adequate replacement for cash. Interesting to hear. They're usually being against cash, but they like cash. Cash is king no more in Germany as cards gain ground. Some interesting stories. You can click on the links. A Spanish train station that became a hub for Nazi gold. Scottsdale mine has $60 million worth of gold in it, but they got to figure out how to get it. Interesting story. You want to check out the pictures. Over 200 pieces of cultural relics displayed in civilization of Qin. This is in the Han dynasties. This is BC. A lot of gold. Interesting stuff. They're going to be displayed in China. Nice pictures there. Stolen gold. Interesting. This was in near Cleveland. The truck went off. Lost some gold, and people were out there scrambling, trying to find specks of gold. All right. Now, let's talk about this largest ever airline. It wasn't a heist. It was a smuggling. Now, the guy worked for the airline. He was a Kenyan. And he took 23 kilograms of gold. Now, 23 kilograms of gold is about 740 ounces of gold. That's about $1 million. But it's really not that much. If you click on the link, you'll see there's pictures of it. He had it in a belt, and then he had it like in his knee pads. And because he worked at the airline, he was able to get through customs. He actually got through everything, but he got arrested at the airport because somebody, I guess he was walking funny, and then he got nailed. But still, 23 kilograms of gold. That's what do they say, 740 ounces. It's not that much in terms of size. What is it? 46 pounds. So he's walking around like he has a load in his pants and hanging off his knees there. And an interesting story. Well, let's see what's happening in China. They pledge employment first. What's this one? Because sound money and gold-backed petro yuan will crush the dollar and end dollar hegemony. See, as we talked about earlier, these are just gold pumper stories. They're little minor blips in China's path to try to internationalize yuan. What are we talking about here? China creates a record 2.9 trillion new loans in 1 month. So, I don't know, this idea, the Ponzi scheme grows, that China is going to crush the dollar. Yeah, I get the dollar. The dollar has weaknesses, and they're well known and well documented. But the same people who can cite you chapter and verse on the problems of the dollar, they just assume China has no problems. China's fine. China has gold. That's all they hear. China's going to crush the dollar. China's going to get together with the BRICS. That's the other one that really makes me crack up, is that the BRICS, you know, you got to remember who are in the BRICS. Brazil. Well, Brazil is corrupt as the day is long. Russia. Now, Russia is probably the most stable of the BRICS. It has little debt. It's kind of a one-trick pony when it comes to economy, but it's very strong in oil. I also read that they're actually good now in grain. They used to suck. They used to, and during the Soviet times, they used to have to import wheat from the United States because they couldn't even know how to grow their own. Apparently, they're good at that. But then you got India, which I don't think is a big ally of China. And then you have South Africa. I mean, that country's a mess. I don't think South Africa's going to take over anything. I mean, the rand is a mess. The country's a mess. And BRIC. Yes, yeah. So you got Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Brazil and South Africa are not worth much, and most of the BRICS are China. And China's, their currency is not very good. There you go. China adds $126 billion in U.S. treasuries in 12 months. Game over for the dollar. End of dollar hegemony. Dollar collapse. China's dumping treasuries. No, they're not. China's state-owned enterprises, state-owned banks all run on dollars. Yeah, they don't like the dollar, and they'd like to see the yuan, but they don't have the same advantages as the United States has. They have a different economy. People praise their economy, but the problem with their economy is more debt dependent than the United States is. Remember, the U.S. debt, the big part of the U.S. debt that's the real problem, is not the part that boosts the economy. It's not the part that the United States relies on to make the economy run. It's to pay the promises, the entitlement programs, the Medicare, the welfare, the Social Security, those types of things. China has that too. People don't realize that. China owes people money. They're not going to let the old Chinese people just go off into the sunset and die. They got to pay for their health care, and they got to pay for their welfare when they can't work anymore. So they have the same issue in the United States, worse. They have more people. But their economy is driven by credit creation far more than the United States. So my point on all this is the whole world is awash in debt. But I believe that the United States debt is more sustainable and more desirable, if you can think of debt as desirable, than any other country or any other entity. South Africa, what's going on there? Yeah, it's just credit deadline. They're going to go bankrupt just like Venezuela. Venezuela. Look at this. Is Venezuela. Another country that's going to challenge dollar hegemony. Sure they are. They're starving people, Mad Max, riots, fleeing the country. Maduro doesn't even listen to his Congress. He's basically disbanded them. He's trying to issue the Petro, supposedly backed by oil and gold. Who would trust that thing? Unbelievable. Here, Brazil. Martial law, basically, in Rio de Janeiro. Part of the BRICS countries, they're going to end dollar hegemony. No, they're not. They got their own problems. It's unbelievable. People believe this stuff. Well, what else we got? There's Kuroda, BOJ chief. He's going to stay on. Reuters poll. This is interesting when you look at the dollar. The euro is going up, even though the euro is printing like mad and buying corporate stocks and not raising rates. And the dollar is still headed down while it's raising rates. So that's a interesting dynamic we're going to talk about probably in a separate YouTube. There's Bernanke, what's he talking about? It's disgusting what they do. They don't just act as referees. They actually play the game. This is why then when people say the market's going to take over, they are the market. Central banks run the markets. They run the stock markets. They run the bond markets. They buy each other's debts. They run the futures, the Forex, the LIBOR, the gold, the silver. So we'll see what happens with all these, or your central bank people. All right, that's about it. Oh, just the thing that the U.S. has collected a lot of taxes in the first month under tax cut, and they actually ran a surplus now. A surplus in a month isn't anything that I guess, to celebrate. Well, it's better than another deficit. So we'll see if the United States continues to increase its deficit. You know, one argument under the Laffer curve is tax cuts actually create more revenue for the government because people make more money. Even though they pay a less percentage of the tax, they end up making, the government makes more tax on that. And that does it for this week. So we will see you during the week. Thank you very much for listening. If you enjoy this report, please consider donating to Smaulgld via PayPal, via Bitcoin, via Litecoin, or becoming a Smaulgld patron, or consider doing your precious metals shopping through the Smaulgld links, BGSC, Golden Eagle Coins, ST Bullion, Money Metals Exchange, because Smaulgld makes a small commission if you do buy from those companies using those links, and you pay no more nor less than if you visit those links directly. It's not an investment advice, but if you're going to buy gold or silver, please consider helping the site out and helping yourself out by comparing pricing and shipping at those links. Thank you very much.